This analogy, we circulated a petition of more than 200 American Jews, many of them prominent scholars and human rights activists. We object to this analogy. We see this as a false attempt to marshal support for the war, which, as you know, has been criticized throughout the world for the tremendous destruction that the NATO air bombing has caused in Yugoslavia.
I know that you think that the war in Yugoslavia is unjust, but tell me why you think the analogy is bad.
Well, you need to look no further than the recent ad in the New York Times. A gentleman took an ad there who said, I'm one of 30 grandchildren. All of the others were killed in the Holocaust. I'm the only one who survived. And he said, Mr. President, that's a Holocaust. This is not a Holocaust.
Sheer numbers, then?
Well, certainly. Not just sheer numbers, but a deliberate government strategy of mass killing of an ethnic group. There's no evidence of that having taken place.
There's no evidence? Now wait, there's no evidence of a government strategy to kill the ethnic Albanians? You're saying there's no evidence of that?
There's no evidence of a government strategy to exterminate the Kosovo Albanian Muslim population.
So are you saying you would deny or you would refute all of the stories from the refugees coming across the border about their brothers, their fathers, their sons, all being taken by the Serbs and shot?
Keep in mind that this is not to say that what's going on is not terrible. What's being done by Yugoslav forces is not terrible. But not all things that are terrible are equal to all other things that are terrible. In Nazi Germany, there was a deliberate campaign to exterminate European Jewry. And after a certain point, there were no longer Jewish refugees because they couldn't get out.
But isn't that ethnic cleansing? I mean, isn't that essentially what we're talking about? Only the numbers are smaller.
No, there is an important difference between expelling people and exterminating them.
But they're exterminating them as well if you believe any of these thousands of stories that we're hearing about men being taken off trains and herded off to be shot and killed. They've found bodies of these people. They've found them. I mean, it's very hard to refute all of these stories. You're saying that's not happening?
Well, look, read the New York Times and the Washington Post. The Washington Post had an article a few weeks ago that said that so far we've been able to document one massacre. Refugee reports are notoriously unreliable, and they have to be documented, and that's why human rights groups always check.
I must admit.
Have double check. Now, let's just give an example.
Okay.
When NATO bombed the first refugee convoy, killing 70 people, the first refugee reports, and this was reported in the Washington Post, they asked people what happened. Did NATO bomb your refugee convoy? And people said no, NATO didn't do that because NATO wouldn't have done that. They couldn't have done that.
Clearly there will be discrepancies, and independent confirmation in the middle of a conflict is hard to come by. But look, here's what I want to ask you. There are people out there who would deny that the Holocaust ever happened. And there are people who are constantly reminding us that in fact it did. And if we don't remember that the Holocaust occurred and the horrors of it, we're destined to repeat it.
History does no good if you use it to lie on behalf of injustice. To say that the Holocaust did not happen is a lie, and to say that the Holocaust is happening now in Yugoslavia is also a lie. And it's a very dangerous lie. It's being used to cover up the tremendous atrocities that are being committed by our forces. Just a couple days ago, another refugee convoy was attacked by NATO Air Force.
That point I understand, but what actually shocks me is the fact that you would say that what is happening to the Serbs, the ethnic cleansing that is occurring, what we believe is occurring in Kosovo.
You mean to the Kosovo Albanians?
To the Kosovo, yes, thank you. To the Kosovo Albanians is not happening. It's
no,
not
I'm
the
not
same
saying
thing.
that. I'm not saying that, and it shocks me that instead of exercising your journalistic responsibility to be critical of the U.S. government, you're blindly repeating U.S. government propaganda. This administration has lied before, and it's lying now.
I'm talking about this analogy between the Holocaust and the ethnic cleansing. Whether or not the government should be in Kosovo is another question entirely. You're linking the two.
It's not another question entirely. The only argument that the Clinton administration has left is this false argument that we're intervening because there's a Holocaust going on.
And you're saying it's an unjust war.
It is an unjust war, and it's a false argument, and that's why we're refuting it.
Thank you very much for joining us. I appreciate it very much. I hope
Thank you very much.